Section 10. The symbol that represent Jews. In this section, I will be discussing the Star of David and some history around this symbol. But before I start, as usual, my introduction. Hi everyone, my name is Kyriakos Michalaikis. My friends call me Kiri, and I'm a sinner. Ecclesiastes 7 verse 20. For there is not a just man upon earth that doeth good and sinneth not. 1 John 1 verse 8. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. I'm not a preacher, a dominee, a papa, a pastor, or a teacher, but I'm a student. Now, first for a little history before I get into the interesting parts about the Star of David, or should I rather say, the Shield of David. Here goes. The land of Israel was the birthplace of the Jewish people. Here their spiritual, religious and political identity was shaped. Here they achieved independence and created a culture of national and universal significance. Israel became an independent state in 1948 through a combination of diplomatic efforts, political maneuvering, and military conflict. The establishment of the State of Israel was the culmination of decades of Zionist aspirations for a Jewish homeland in the region. The United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution on November 29 in 1947, known as the United Nations Partition Plan for Palestine, which called for the partition of British Mandate Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. The Jewish leadership accepted the plan, but the Arab states rejected it. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion, Ben meaning son of, thus Ben-Gurion translates to son of Gurion, who was the head of the Jewish agency, declared the establishment of the State of Israel. Then a flag, the flag of Israel with the Star of David, was officially for the first time adopted on October 28 in 1948, 5 months after the establishment of the independent state of Israel on May 14, 1948. The symbol of this flag was first hosted and publicly displayed at the United Nations headquarters in New York on May 12, 1949, a day after Israel was admitted as a member state. Theodor Herzl, considered the father of modern political Zionism, was the one that actually used the Star of David, or Shield of David, in the design of the flag of the first Zionist Congress in 1897. This was to be the flag of Israel that was designed by the Zionist movement's flag and emblem committee. However, the exact reasons for its adoption as a Jewish symbol are not definitely known. It features a blue Star of David in the center between two horizontal blue stripes on a white background. This declaration then was later followed by a war with neighboring Arab states, including Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq, who opposed the creation of Israel in the first place. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, Israel was able to secure its independence and establish itself as a sovereign state. This war ended in 1949 with armistice agreements, and then Israel's borders were then established. This newly formed state of Israel was admitted to the United Nations in 1949. Then, on the 5th day of July in 1950, there was a law passed down by Israel called the Law of Return, calling all Jews back to their land, in which I spoke of, in who is considered a true Jew today in section 4. Now going into a different direction once more, for just a little on the Rothschild's family's history, as I feel it's of great importance for you to know, especially for future events to come. This is from information I gathered from different sources. Have more, but I'm sure you will get the general idea. Long story short, the Rothschild family is a wealthy and influential European banking dynasty that originated in Germany. They are one of the most powerful and influential and richest families, or the richest family in the world today. This family's rise to prominence began with Mayer Amschel Rothschild when he established a banking business in the late 18th century. The Rothschilds became known for their financial acumen and played a significant role in financing various governments and enterprises across Europe. The family then expanded their banking operations to different countries, including the United Kingdom, France, Austria, Italy, and then to the rest of the world. They have already introduced the digital banking system to the world with the elites, which later will cause that all cash systems will be taken away. This will become a life-changing event on its own, amongst other changes like global warming, where Sunday rest will also be introduced, amongst other events discussed in darkness. Have you ever noticed that all the kings of the world kisses the Pope's hand, but when it comes to the Rothschilds family, it is the Pope that kisses their hands? They also became involved in various industries such as mining, railways, and winemaking. And of course, don't forget that financing of wars on both sides too. The Rothschilds have been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories and have been portrayed as having immense power and influence over global affairs. The Rothschilds, especially their French branch headed Baron Edmond de Rothschild, were very deeply involved in the most early part of the Zionist movement. The Zionist colonies created in Ottoman-ruled Palestine in the last 2 decades of the 19th century. Rothschild's money financed these settlements, which were very dependent on it. This, however, came with strings. The Rothschilds appointed their own officials, which controlled life in these early Zionist colonies, who behaved very arrogantly like colonial governors, arousing much resentment. The rebellion of the early Zionist colonists against the Baron's official, that is Baron de Rothschild's officials, is part of the history taught in Israeli schools today. While the Rothschild family did not directly purchase this land for the establishment of the State of Israel, their financial support and investment in Jewish settlement in Palestine were instrumental in the early Zionist movement. I have another saying, and that is, there is always something good that comes out of bad people that don't know it. Like, for example, Bibles in Freemason churches. Now, back to the Israel's flag. The symbol of Israel's flag known as the Star of David, was believed to have been associated with the Jewish people for centuries and was adopted as a symbol of the state of Israel due to its historical and cultural significance. Now, for a little history on the Star of David. The term Star of David is generally recognized as both Jewish identity and Judaism itself. In the Hebrew context, the Star of David is actually referred to as the Shield of David or Magen David and has a long and complex history. Now, when discussing the origins of the Star of David, the question arises whether it is truly a symbol of the Jewish people that represents King David or simply makes reference to him. I will try my best to supply the most widely interpretations among Jews, the rabbinic interpretation that is, explaining the origin of this star, namely the hexagram. The rabbis explain that the Star of David was formed from the name of David. According to this tradition, blacksmiths wanted to give King David his name on a shield. Some claim that they simply wanted to inscribe the name of King David on all the soldiers of Israel. The blacksmiths, according to this version, attempted to put the name of David in ancient Hebrew using the Phoenician writing form, which predates square writings. In this attempt, something surprisingly happened. There was an issue and the letters of David ended up merging, resulting in the geoformation of the Star of David or hexagram. This is notable when you look at the Phoenician writing. The name David in Hebrew has 3 letters, a dalet, a vav, and a dalet. The dalet, especially in the beginning, resembles a triangle, being practically a triangle. The vav is not a triangle, but the other dalet is also exactly a triangle. Therefore, we have 2 triangles. The Star of David or the hexagram is formed by an upward triangle and by another downward triangle placed one on top of the other. In this tradition, the fusion of the letter dalet resulted in the creation of this symbol. It is worth noticing that in Phoenician writing that the name of David is pronounced as David. So basically, this is pointed out by the rabbis for the Star of David according to rabbinic tradition. Many people confuse the Star of David with the Seal of Solomon, which is essentially the same symbol. The differentiation between the Star of David and the Seal of Solomon is very small. The Seal of Solomon, also known as the Ring of Solomon, is a legendary signet ring associated with King Solomon of Israel in medieval mystical traditions. It is often depicted as a 5 or 6 pointed star, such as a pentagram or hexagram, and is said to have allowed King Solomon to control demons, evil spirits, or jinxes, genies. The seal has developed into parallel within Jewish mysticism, Islamic mysticism, and Western occultism, and can be found in amulets, prayer books, and talismanic shirts. Some believe that King Solomon, due to the idolatry and paganism he engaged in, distorted the original symbol of his father's symbol, King David. According to this view, Solomon's worship of pagan deities and the construction of temples for these gods deviated from his father's faith. Thus, some argue that King Solomon distorted the symbol of his father, King David, causing this symbol to be intertwined. It is observed that the Star of David is overlaid, while the seal of Solomon is intertwined. Another interpretation suggested that his love for many women, especially for his adulterous ones, represents the masculine and the feminine in this symbol. In this view, the upper triangle represents the masculine and the downward triangle the feminine, or vice versa. Some claim that King Solomon made this alteration due to his involvement with foreign Canaanite and adulterous women, demonstrating excessive love for them. One must take into consideration that the seal of Solomon, like King Xerxes, Esther's husband, was used for their mark on letterheads written. King Solomon's seal had a circle around this Star of David when stamping his letter that was intertwined, where King David's seal didn't. Remember that circle now around the intertwined Star of David. Many believe that the seal of David is used in magic rituals and in occultism. According to some accounts, King Solomon became a sorcerer, and this symbol was associated with a ring that King Solomon possessed. In satanic worship, this star, also having a circle or ring around it with a seal of King Solomon's intertwined, is used. But one cannot really intertwine the seal of Solomon when drawn on the floor, right? But there is still a circle around it, which makes it different from the Star of David. Speaking of King Solomon's mistakes, this is not new. We also know that if we had to go biblically, nowhere in the Tanakh, that is the Old Testament in Christian language, did God also command David to make this symbol to be King David's seal. We also know that Solomon was a wise king. He had asked God for wisdom and was also recognized as a prophet. He wrote the books of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the book of Songs, but his wisdom wasn't eternal like Hashem's wisdom is. King Solomon was also a dabbler. Now, why do I say that? Because King Solomon had many wives, and those wives came from different cultures, and those cultures worshipped different gods. That's why in his time the different kingdoms blessed Israel and there was no war. Why? He married the different kingdoms' daughters. And guess what these daughters that became his wife brought to the marriage with him? Witchcraft. Why do I say that? I don't. The Bible does. Let's read 1 Kings 11 verse 1 to 9. But King Solomon loved many strange women. Why were the women strange? Because they didn't worship the same God as Israel did. Together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clove unto these in love, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians. Now, I would like to pause here for a second and mention that Ashtaroth is the Queen of Heaven. I'll be getting back to her in a later section. And after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build on high places for Chemosh, the abomination, here's that word again, of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech. I should also mention here that children were sacrificed to Molech. This is the abomination, there's that word again, of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. Now, turning to the discussion of the hexagram as the Star of David, it is interesting to note that the Bible does not explicitly mention this star by the people of Israel as a symbol of David, but on the contrary, the Bible addresses the idolatry associated with a star that was adopted by Israelis that deviated from their faith. The book of Amos is clear about this idolatry of the acts of the Israelis, and the apostles also addresses this theme in Acts 7 verse 43. Acts 7 verse 43. Yea, you took up the tabernacle of Molech and the star of your god Remphan, figures which ye have made to worship them, and I will carry you away beyond Babylon. Now let's get into the book of Amos. Amos 5 verse 24 to 27. Hashem is not in a good mood here. The people of Israel have been very foolish, and Hashem is trying to correct them. Amos 5 verse 24. But let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Now, the prophet Amos specifically mentions an idolatry, pagan, demonic god known as Remphan, related to the star of Remphan in Amos 5 verse 25 to 27. Amos 5 verse 25. Have you offered unto me sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness 40 years, O house of Israel? Amos 5 verse 26. But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Molech, and Shihon your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves. Amos 5 verse 27. Therefore will I cause you to go into captivity beyond Damascus, saith the Lord, whose name is Yahweh, Elohim, God of hosts. In other words, according to this alternative perspective, both the Star of David and the Seal of Solomon, both symbols without exceptions would ultimately be a representation of a star. Some might argue that for them it was not necessarily a star with a defined shape, but rather an interpretation that differed when observed by other people. However, the claim is questionable, as people like the Akkadians and Sumerians in the Mesopotamia region of the Middle East used a similar to represent the sky, essentially a star. Thus, the Star of David or hexagram or Star of Remphan would essentially be a pagan representation that found an expectance among the Israelis as indicated by Amos. According to this connection, the star would have no connection to King David, the seal of Solomon, or both of these symbols be related to a pagan deity called Remphan. It is also no coincidence that the hexagram is founded in different cultures as a pagan symbol or in magical practices. It is also important to note that the Star of Remphan is an 8-pointed star and is also said to be associated with the Roman god Saturn and possibly the Babylonian goddess Ishtar. The Star of Ishtar, on the other hand, is also an 8-pointed star. It is a symbol of the goddess Ishtar, who was worshipped in ancient Mesopotamia. This star is often associated with fertility, love, and protection. It is also usually depicted in various colors, such as gold, silver, or blue, and can be seen on various artifacts and monuments from ancient Mesopotamia. Also important to note is that the pentagram, on the other hand, is a 5-pointed star. Pende meaning 5 in Greek, like Pentecost meaning 50 in Greek. The occult pentagram is an inverted 5-pointed star inside of a circle. This is demonic to the core. Satan's head is usually inverted into a 5-pointed star, like you would find on, say, a Christmas tree, for example. The Magen David, again, on the other hand, or the shield of David, or the 6-pointed star, was also used in many ancient cultures for decorative purposes. Rarely held religious significance until recent history, though. It is extremely imperative to note that the Star of David with a circle around it is not the Star of David, but in actual fact the seal of Solomon, which looks similarly to the Star of David and is used in many cults, black magic, and religions like Buddhism, Hinduism, just to mention a few. It is also used to place hexes and curses onto people. It comes also from the Jewish Kabbalah. Kabbalah is very dangerous. It's Jewish magic. It is a symbol of dark summoning. The name of that is, if you want to put a hex on somebody, you want to cause a spirit to come forth, this is the symbol that you would use. Please, just remember that not all Jews worship the same God either. Does that mean that certain people of Israel who have taken the symbol of the seal of Solomon are evil? No. They've just been deceived. We all know that Satan can deceive people very well. Overall, the Star of David on the flag of Israel serves as a powerful symbol of Jewish heritage, identity, and the connection to the land of Israel. We now come to the end of this section, section 10. In the next section, in section 11, I will be speaking about another interesting topic, and that is the Christian, their beliefs in general. I would already say here that it's also fair to say that the symbol representing Christianity would be a cross, and the symbol for the Messianics would be a menorah. Do you know what amazes me the most here is that out of all these symbols or furniture that Hashem commanded anyone to make, He chose the menorah or the lampstand. And I still don't understand why the Jewish people didn't take up this menorah symbol instead of the shield of David. But anyways, before I get carried away once more, lots of blessings and shalom. Kyriakos.